Hey people, it's Nias Toki. Now I'd like to thank one of my subscribers, Panfra Assad, for a comment he left talking about this, and he told me, so I'm making a video about this subject. This is about the Treme neighborhood, one of the oldest African American communities in America. It's, what do you call it, just opposite from the French Quarter in New Orleans. So this is from noah.curb.com. There's not a lot of information out here specifically about the history, but I think this is okay. So here it begins. Treme is rich in art, architecture, and community. Treme is a living neighborhood. Treme is one of the oldest black neighborhoods in the United States. What is now Treme? It was a plantation. The late 1700s, hat maker and real estate developer Claude Treme owned and subdivided his land, and in 1810 he sold it to the city of New Orleans. This new subdivision became home to several free persons of color and residents of European descent. The neighborhood has consistently been a cultural incubator. In the 1800s, the city designated a portion of land for free persons and black slaves to congregate, play music, and sell goods. This gathering place later became known as Congo Square. Treme was also known for its portion of North Claiborne Avenue, which had a neutral ground, green space that divides two directions of traffic, lined with hundreds of oak trees, an alternative to Canal Street, which is a major commercial area in New Orleans. North Claiborne Avenue had over 100 businesses and several residences, but that changed in the second half of the 20th century. In an aggressive U.S. interstate highway system plan, the city opted to turn Treme's North Claiborne neutral ground into an elevated expressway for Interstate 10. That project wiped out the avenue's oak trees and a considerable portion of its businesses. And I want to just take a moment and talk about what Neely Fuller said. If you look at some of his videos, now made by Carlito's Way 44, one of the things he mentioned is, hey, if you've got businesses or second generation houses, we got to stop it. We'll build a highway through it. And we see it right here. Where does it have to go? We'll build it straight through the black neighborhood and take out a whole host of their businesses with it. Today, the neighborhood holds some of the richest Creole architecture found in New Orleans. There's a buffet of vibrant Creole cottages in the 1830s, townhouses erected in the 1840s, and double shotguns that date back to the 1890s. An excellent example of Creole architecture in Treme is the Melur Goldthwaite House, a villa built in 1828 that houses the currently closed New Orleans African American Museum. Well, I'm not surprised. We all know how they treat that stuff. Treme is also home to one of the oldest African American Catholic parishes in the nation. Again, black people in Christianity has not had a good history, but let's not get off topic. Let's just continue. Founded in 1841, the St. Augustine Church sits on the corner of Governor Nichols and Henriette Delio Streets. Architect J.N.B. Despoilets, who assisted in the renovation and expansion of the St. Louis Cathedral in the French Quarter, designed this church. On the side of the church is the tomb of the unknown slave. A fallen chain across that commemorates the lives of slaves of African descent who died in New Orleans and were buried in unmarked graves. Treme holds two cultural museums. Around the corner from St. Augustine Church is the Backstreet Cultural Museum, which hosts exhibits on the black contributions to New Orleans, and as such a second line as Mardi Gras Indians, baby dolls, and black social aid and pleasure clubs. The neighborhood also holds the Treme Petite Jazz Museum, which has artifacts, recordings, and books that explore the development of jazz in New Orleans. The neighborhood is not only rich in culture, but in green space too. On Rampart Street sits the 32-acre Louis Armstrong Park. It has sculptures of music icons such as Louis Armstrong and Mardi Gras Indian Big Chief Allison Montana. It's also home to the Mahalia Jackson Theater of the Performing Arts, and it holds the original site of Congo Square. Treme is also home to a sizable section of the Lafayette Greenway, which is a 2.6-mile bicycle and pedestrian trail that connects mid-city to Treme. Nearly spanning the length of the neighborhood, it has over 500 trees, bioswales, permeable pavement for stormwater management, and several open fields. While the neighborhood has cultivated some of New Orleans' renowned artists and architectural styles, it struggles to keep the residents who perpetuated that culture. The data center reports that Treme's population dropped from 8,800 residents in 2000 to 4,500 around 2016. While Treme is less populated than it was 18 years ago, the consensus-based data does not show the impact Hurricane Katrina had on neighborhood abandonment. Even with the drop in population, the neighborhood continues to struggle with a lack of housing. As tourists seek ever more local experiences of New Orleans, Treme has become a hotspot for developers to invest in short-term rentals. Fewer people own homes in the neighborhood. The most recent data in the community survey supports that 28.9% of residents in Treme are homeowners, while 71.1% identify as renters. However, residents remain hopeful for their neighborhood and grateful for the culture, life, and energy that has been instilled in the neighborhood for over 200 years. In this photo essay, we catch a glimpse of what makes Treme noteworthy. And I'll leave this article in the description, and I'll try and put a few more up to get to give as much information to anyone who wants to look at it as possible. And you can also just type in Treme New Orleans or Treme Black History, and you can come up with many of these articles yourself. And I find it interesting that they're talking about the future of Treme and New Orleans. But from what I've studied, if you see the Mississippi and its changing course and the doubt of whether the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers can hold it back, New Orleans itself as a city might not even exist within 100 years. You know, if the river switches to the Atchafalaya, the Baton Rouge and New Orleans will just find themselves in the middle of nowhere with no access to the sea and no access to the river. But, you know, that's a whole completely different story. Anyway, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. I'll leave the paper in the description if you want to support that. And just have a nice day, I suppose. Thank you. Peace.